We start this lesson. What about our section? Introducing one of IONET's inference services. What about the IONET? In fact, it is mainly. Some of this open source version is available. The inference service of such a large model. This is determined by its positioning. You can take a look at this. It's one such document. There are many more of these open source models. Of course, this is always being updated. And what about this section? Mainly introduce its large model. How is it used roughly? Mainly its reasoning services. Of course. What about our learning environment? I suggest you use Jupyter. Build one yourself locally. Of course, you can also use Colab, including IONET's own. It also has such a VM virtual machine services are available. Okay then. This one can run like Colab. This is our entire GitHub. It's the same back here. It's all open source. Then when we apply it, in fact, our IONET, it's all such services, are fully compatible with the OpenAI SDK. So what they say, you only need to install OpenAI. The latest such a bag will do. Of course, many large file services are like this now. Okay, then, we use IONET's services. Core words. Actually, we need a key to take a look. In fact, it is the same as using OpenAI. And then this. If you apply, it actually has a time limit, up to 180 days. Just choose one. It's basically words. This is more virtual machines. Of course, it's more intelligence. So now it's intelligence. Then, why do people recommend using IONET? Because it is equivalent to a relatively new company. The token it gave was very, very generous. You can take a look. It is nearly every day. 500,000 tokens. He updates this thing every day. That's it every day. Right? Right. We learn. Even a small business is enough. Then, it's a list of his services that provide models. You can take a look. But it's not necessarily all here. Mainly to access his API. There are only about 14 listed here. In newer common like Hugging Face Head. This large model. It has selected some services. So it's pretty easy to use. Like this typical Llama 3.3. And Tonji Chinwin. It's all this. Actually, they are all such open source models at the top of Hugging Face. It's all made into a service. See a list of models of its services. Of course, how to call it. Same as OpenAI. And of course, if you click on it, you can go directly to one of them. Chat directly here. Of course you can. Use API. Then we mainly do development applications. It must be subject to the API. You can take a look. And this is a list of acquired models of it. You can run. Here's the latest. So here's what we've outlined. How about turning this into something? Turned around. Turned into something like this. See, basically, an Hugging Face. It's such a top-level model is consistent. Let's talk about one of its model calls. We just said, it is called by our model. It is basically the same as the OpenAI SDK. The first is to obtain the key. We just saw how to get this. Initialize the client side. That's what happens in general. We ourselves are equivalent to a third party. OpenAI compatible. So just write another URL. So this is the model call. If the model is called, it is generally chat. Our chat is everything. Chatting is everything. All the way through chat. That's what we usually use. Chat the completions. There is a message here. This word is some of the most basic usage. This is the model. Which model to use? This messages. This is the response. This content. This returns something. But the crux of the matter is to say, it's actually the same for everyone. It's the type of message I have in role. The most common is the user. It's our user. Assistant is, he will return. System is a background character. You are a professional translator or a professional drone pilot. It's a character. Of course, we can also do some of this precision. Control of this output. The most common temperature. Okay, it's generally speaking. The smaller it is, the colder it is, right? The more certain its output is. Usually do this vla, with this very low temperature. Writing documentation or writing some of these articles. I hope it's higher, a little bit richer. This max token is the maximum token output number. And remember, this is actually input and output together. This is a streaming mode. The streaming mode is to output to you word by word. If not, he is equivalent to giving you all the answers. In fact, just write a parameter for this. Yes, we use the process. So, in a nutshell, in other words, it is actually to obtain a key. Then call it. Nothing particularly complicated. So here are some examples. What about the core? That is to say, have a key. You'll be thorough. This is the same as OpenAI. OpenAI if it is your own. There are no these two parameters here. There is only one parameter. Without this, because of our third party, so we are fixed to OpenAI. If it uses this IO, use this. Bezero. It's all the same. The following is exactly the same as the OpenAI SDK. We choose this model, but this list of models, you need to choose from the table in front of you. This is our call. You are a useful assistant. I'm working on a project with IO Intelligence. This is his reply. The second word, more commonly known as multi-round conversations. Multi-round conversations are relatively simple. In fact, I want to. All conversations are recorded. Every time you send it. In fact, it was sent by my user in the last round. And this big model. Give him all the goods returned. Well, you see the equivalent of this. This is the first round. Okay, so here's the first round. Okay, then send the words out. Okay. By the second round. In fact, you can take a look, right? Okay. What I'm actually saying is that the whole conversation routine. In fact, history is recorded, right? The results of each chat. Okay, look at the result of this chat. And that includes me. Write down all the messages sent by the user, right? Then, unified is equivalent to sending a large model. Okay, of course, this could be if there are more rounds. It may be more expensive. Token. This is round 2. Another example is steaming. This steaming is quite. It's like streaming a conversation. It's actually given to you word by word. There's nothing special about that. Mainly, just generate this to be true. Let's have a look. Another large multimode mode model. What does multimode large model mean? That is to say, hey, let's give a picture. Let it identify. There is a simple thing called looking at pictures and talking. Make goals. Object tracking. Target recognition. We'll talk about it later. Just look at the picture and talk. Just say what's in the picture here. What is the picture describing? The simplest question. The only difference is that it is equivalent to you watching the content, usually text. But our content has an imagirl. You can compare. If this is the case, generally speaking, we are going to call encoding it. If this picture is like this, you can take a look. We use this image, just a few small drones, then execute it. You can see it here, right? Then describe what's in this picture. It will tell you the DJI drone. Drone type is also recognized more accurately. The last word. That's it. Embedding vector model. In general, let's take a text representation vector. Vector space model. This is the text vector space model. But early, Earlier words, we use this fid to represent text, right? Now, it can also be directly expressed with a large model. You can take a look at what these are. Vectors, which models can represent vectors. Take a look at the approximate. Did a run. That's about it. And these models? It is equivalent to a text, a string, represented as a vector. Okay, let's use it. What about this run? Here it is. The first few, right? Okay, what about this vector in theory? That is, all the big models. Its last layer. You add a header to it. Can output vectors. But we have a few dedicated ones. It's more efficient. I'll use this. This is usually done as this RAG. The knowledge base is used more often. And that's what we're going to talk about here.